Some sentences don't just hurt, they change everything. For me, it was a Saturday night after dinner with friends. We'd had a little too much wine. The laughter was still echoing in the car as we drove home. She was relaxed, carefree in a way she rarely was anymore. And maybe that's why she let it slip. Her name is Emily. We'd been married 4 years, together for 7. We built a life brick by brick, a small house in the suburbs, steady jobs, shared bank accounts, the kind of life people call secure. But security is a double-edged sword. That night, sitting in the passenger seat, she turned to me, half laughing, and said, "You know, you were always just the safe choice." She chuckled after saying it, like it was some harmless joke. Like it wasn't the kind of truth that slices a man in half. I gripped the wheel tighter, forcing a smile. "Safe choice." "Yeah," she said lightly, scrolling her phone as if the words didn't matter. "Like, you're stable, reliable. The guy any woman would be smart to settle down with. Not the wild, exciting one, but the safe one." The rest of the drive was quiet. To her, it was nothing, just a throwaway comment. But to me, it was a window into something real. Because buried in those words was the truth. I wasn't her first choice. I wasn't her passion. I wasn't the man she wanted. I was the man she chose because I was convenient, steady, predictable, the man she could settle down with. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. She didn't see me as a partner. She saw me as insurance. That night, she fell asleep fast, snoring softly beside me. But I lay awake staring at the ceiling, her words pounding in my skull. Safe choice. Safe choice. Safe choice. It wasn't the first time she'd said something like that either. A year earlier, during an argument, she'd snapped, "You're so boring sometimes. I wonder what life would have been like if I'd chosen differently." She apologized after, said she didn't mean it. I forgave her. But maybe the truth slips out more often than we realize. And if I was the safe choice, what did that make her? The next morning, I studied her face as she sipped coffee, scrolling Instagram like always. She looked so comfortable, so sure I'd always be there. Because that's what safety is, right? Something you never think you'll lose. But I made a decision in that moment. I wouldn't confront her. I wouldn't fight. I wouldn't demand she explain herself. I'd do something far more powerful. I'd let her keep believing it. Let her live in the comfort of safety. While I quietly built the exit she'd never see coming. The first step was patience. I didn't pull away immediately. I didn't sulk or act cold. Instead, I played the same role I always had: reliable husband, dependable partner, the man she could count on. But inside, the gears were turning. I started planning. Slowly, methodically. I went through our accounts, setting up a separate savings she knew nothing about. Small transfers at first, invisible to her eye. I organized my important papers, stored them where she wouldn't think to look. I made a mental list of everything I'd take when the time came. And all the while, I smiled, I cooked dinner, I kissed her goodnight. Because the greatest betrayal doesn't come from anger. It comes from silence. And when she finally learned what her safe choice had done, the shock would be the only thing left ringing in her ears. But here's the part she didn't understand. Safety isn't guaranteed. Sometimes, safety is just the calm before the storm. And she had no idea what was coming. Over the next few weeks, I shifted in small, careful ways. Nothing sudden, nothing dramatic. Just enough to start changing the rhythm of our life together. I stopped filling in the silences. Emily had gotten used to me carrying the weight of conversation, asking about her day, listening to every detail about her coworkers, her frustrations, her plans. But now I let the quiet sit. If she wanted to talk, she could. If she didn't, the silence stretched between us like a wall. At first, she didn't notice. Then she'd glance at me across the couch and ask, "You okay? You're so quiet lately." I'd smile faintly and answer, "Just tired." No arguments. No explanations. Just distance wrapped in calm. I also stopped going out of my way to make her life easier. For years, I'd been the one running errands she forgot, fixing things around the house before she even noticed they were broken, picking up dinner when she didn't feel like cooking. Now, when she asked, "Can you grab milk on your way home?" I'd say, "Not tonight, I've got something else to do." When she mentioned the leaky faucet in the kitchen, I said, "Call a plumber." The look on her face each time told me she was confused, maybe even unsettled. But she didn't push too hard. She was too used to me being dependable. She assumed it was just a phase. And that assumption was exactly what I wanted. Meanwhile, I worked quietly behind the scenes. I opened a separate post office box, started redirecting my important mail there. I made digital copies of everything that mattered: birth certificate, tax documents, even old photos that were mine alone. Bit by bit, I was separating myself from the life we'd built. And all the while, Emily carried on like nothing was changing, because she still thought I was her safe choice. And people don't notice when their safety net starts fraying until it snaps. One Friday night, she came home late from drinks with coworkers. Normally, I would have asked who she was with, how it went, why she hadn't texted me. This time, I just looked up from the book I was reading and said, "Hey." That was it. Her eyes flickered, like she was waiting for the interrogation that never came. She hesitated, then walked past me into the kitchen. The silence followed her down the hall like a shadow. She started compensating. One evening, she surprised me with my favorite meal, candles lit on the table. Another night, she slipped into lingerie she hadn't worn in years, trying to reignite something that had burned out long ago. To her, these were efforts to fix us. To me, they were proof of what I already knew: she wasn't acting out of love. She was acting out of fear. Fear that the safe choice she had always taken for granted was slipping away. The irony was almost cruel. For years, I'd given her everything: patience, loyalty, stability. She treated it like background noise, something that would always be there. Now, when I finally pulled it away, she scrambled to hold on. But here's the truth: you can't repair respect that never existed. And every time she leaned in closer, I took another quiet step back. One night, as we were lying in bed, she rested her head on my chest and whispered, "I'm glad we're doing better." I stroked her hair, calm, steady. "Me too." But inside, I was already gone. Because I wasn't planning for better. I was planning for done. And when the time came, she'd discover what happens when the man you called your safe choice decides he's not going to catch you anymore. By midsummer, Emily was glowing again. She laughed more, touched me more, kissed me when she left for work and when she came home. She sent me texts in the middle of the day: "Miss you, can't wait to see you tonight, thinking of you." To anyone watching from the outside, it looked like our marriage was thriving, like we'd pulled through some rough waters and come out stronger. But the truth was simpler. She wasn't celebrating love, she was clinging to stability. Because deep down, she felt the shift. And for the first time in years, she was afraid of losing what she thought she'd always have. Meanwhile, I was perfecting the last steps of my plan. The apartment across town was ready, furnished, stocked, mine. I had a separate bank account, a P.O. box, my own phone line. The paperwork, the essentials, even the sentimental things I wanted, all of it was already moved. If you walked through our house, you wouldn't notice anything missing. But I knew the truth. I'd already stripped it of myself. All that remained was my body. And soon, that too would be gone. I started watching her more carefully. Not out of suspicion, but out of curiosity. The way she smiled at me when she thought I was softening again. The way she relaxed when I reached for her hand in public, as if that one gesture erased every silence between us. The way she started talking about the future, vacations, remodeling the kitchen, maybe even kids someday. It almost amazed me how quickly she convinced herself we were back on track. But that's the thing about comfort. It makes people blind. And Emily was blind to the reality that while she was dreaming about the future, I was counting down the days until I erased myself from hers. One Saturday afternoon, we were walking through the park. She slipped her arm through mine, rested her head on my shoulder, and said softly, "I'm so glad I chose you." The words nearly made me laugh. Because not long ago, she told me I was the safe choice. The man she settled for. The reliable one. The boring one. Now, with fear in her eyes, she was rewriting the story. I didn't correct her. I just smiled, kissed her forehead, and said, "I'm glad too." But inside, I was already gone. That night, while she was asleep, I pulled the envelope from my desk drawer. The letter I'd written weeks ago, folded neatly, waiting. I reread it once more. Emily, the night you said I was the safe choice was the night I stopped being your husband in my heart. You wanted comfort, stability, a man you could settle for. And you got him. But what you never understood is that safety isn't guaranteed. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Don't look for me. Don't call. Silence is the only answer left between us. I slid it back into the envelope, sealed it, and placed it where I knew she'd find it. Soon, she would. And when she did, she'd realize that her safety net had vanished. That the man she took for granted had left her standing alone. The cruelest part? She wouldn't see it coming. Because right now, she was convinced she'd won me back. And the deeper she fell into that belief, the harder it would shatter when she discovered the truth. The truth I had been preparing in silence all along. The morning I chose to leave started like any other. That was deliberate. Emily was in the kitchen, humming to herself while making pancakes. She looked up at me with a bright smile. "Sit down, I've got breakfast." I did. We ate together. She talked about a work project, about maybe booking a cabin trip in the fall, about how she wanted us to start planning for the future. I nodded at the right times, smiled when she looked at me. To her, it must have felt like peace, like love, like safety. To me, it was the last breakfast we would ever share. When she kissed me at the door before heading to her yoga class, she whispered, "Don't be late tonight. I'll make something special." I kissed her back. Wouldn't miss it. But I knew I would. The second the door closed, I moved quickly. The duffel bag was already packed. The last of my essentials, documents, clothes, that single envelope. I walked through the house one final time. The living room where she scrolled endlessly while I sat in silence. The bedroom where she once told me I was the man she settled for. The kitchen where she laughed just yesterday, thinking everything was fine. I set the envelope on the counter, placed my key on top of it, and walked out. No arguments. No goodbye. Just silence. By the afternoon, the text started. "Hey, you forgot your jacket. Where are you? Then, did you step out? Call me. Then, are you okay? You're scaring me." By evening, they turned frantic. "This isn't like you. Answer me. Then, if you're trying to prove a point, fine. You win. Just come home. And finally, please, don't do this. I need you. I can't lose you." But silence was the only reply she got. The next day, she found the letter. I know because that evening, there was pounding on the door of my new apartment. I opened it to see her, eyes red, hair messy, holding the envelope in her trembling hands. "You can't just leave," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You're my husband. You're supposed to be the safe one, the steady one, the one who doesn't walk away." I stared at her, calm and steady. "That's the mistake you made, Emily. You thought safety meant permanence. You thought reliability meant weakness. You thought I was the man you could settle for without ever really choosing." She shook her head, tears streaming. "I didn't mean it like that." I cut her off gently. "You did. And once you said it, I couldn't unhear it. That was the day I stopped being yours." Her shoulders collapsed. "So that's it? After everything, you're just gone." I stepped back, my voice low and final. "No, I've been gone for a long time. You just realized it today." And I closed the door. That was the last time I saw her face. She tried for weeks after calls, texts, even showing up at my office once. I never responded. Because silence doesn't need an explanation. And in that silence, she finally learned the truth. I wasn't just her safe choice. I was the best choice she ever had. And now I was the one she could never have again.